At one point when we were dating, I became pregnant with Justin's baby. It was a surprise, but for me, it wasn't a tragedy. But Justin definitely wasn't happy about the pregnancy. He said that we weren't ready to have a baby, that we were too young. I could understand. I kind of understood. If he didn't want to become a father, I didn't feel like I had much of a choice. I didn't want to push him into something he didn't want. Our relationship was too important to me. And so, I'm sure people will hate me for this, but I agreed not to have the baby. Abortion was something I never could have imagined choosing for myself, but given the circumstances, that is what we did. If it had been left up to me alone, I never would have done it. And yet Justin was so sure he didn't want to be a father. We also decided on something that, in retrospect, wound up being, in my view, wrong. And that was that I would not go to the doctor or to the hospital to have the abortion. It was important that no one found out about the pregnancy or the abortion, and that meant doing everything at home. We didn't even tell my family. The only person who knew besides Justin was Felicia, who was always on hand to help me. I was told it might hurt a little bit, but you'll be fine. On the appointed day, with only Felicia and Justin there, I took the little pills. Soon, I started having excruciating cramps. I went into the bathroom and stayed there for hours, lying on the floor, sobbing and screaming. They should have numbed me with something, I thought. I wanted some kind of anesthesia. I wanted to go to the doctor. I was so scared. I lay there wondering if I was going to die. When I tell you it was painful, I can't begin to describe it. The pain was unbelievable. I went down to the ground on my knees, holding the toilet for a long time. I couldn't move. To this day, it's one of the most agonizing things I've ever experienced. And still, they didn't take me to the hospital. Justin came into the bathroom and lay on the floor with me. At some point, he thought maybe music would help, so he got his guitar and he lay there with me strumming it. I kept crying and sobbing until it was all over. It took hours, and I don't remember how it ended. But I do, 20 years later, remember the pain of it and the fear. After that, I was messed up for a while, especially because I loved Justin so much. It was insane how much I loved him. And for me, it was unfortunate. I should have seen the breakup coming, but I didn't. So that is a clip from a clip. That is a passage from Britney Spears' autobiography, The Woman in Me, which I actually read because when the book came out a few months ago, it made headlines that she, in her upcoming autobiography, recounted the experience of her having an abortion 20 years ago with her and Justin Timberlake. And I don't believe the public had known that prior to this. And I wanted to share this passage because although the abortion story made the headlines and some news articles, I don't believe that this level of detail made the headlines or the stories conveniently. And I think it's just so excruciatingly heartbreaking. Not least because of who is telling it. Every mother who's gone through abortion, her story is heartbreaking and needs to be heard. That said, as far as I know, Britney Spears is not political. She has no ulterior motive here. If she's anything, I would assume she's a liberal. And certainly telling stories like this, of which there are many, about regretting your abortion, are not popular in Hollywood or in the music industry or anything. You don't get any kind of points for telling this. And so I think that's why it's all the more prescient. And of course, we've all seen over the past 15 years, whether we've been paying attention to her or not, you know, some of the public trials that she has gone through, and the way that people say she went crazy. Currently now, you can go on her social media and she doesn't seem to be a very well woman. And I think it would be foolish to say that this experience 20 years ago of aborting her first child has nothing to do with everything that happened in the interim and where Britney Spears is now. Of course, if there's any way to make something like this even more heartbreaking, even more of a tragedy, if that's at all possible, there's the fact that she was dumped by Justin shortly thereafter, according to her. And, you know, just imagine going through this awful experience, being lied to, in her own words, being told that you might hurt a little bit, but you'll be fine, and then undergoing immense physical pain, immense emotional pain, carrying this with you for the next 2 decades, only to have the man who you loved at the time, who you thought you had a future with, which was the whole reason you were doing this, dump you. I mean, the whole thing is just a tragedy top to bottom. And I want you to understand that she's talking about a chemical abortion, the abortion pills. Because of the Biden administration, we mail those pills out to women now. They do not have to go see a doctor beforehand. You can have the abortion pill mailed out to you without seeing a doctor beforehand. Prior to the Biden administration, you used to have to go to a doctor and then go pick up the pills in person. And now we will mail them out to you. And this is a woman in her 40s recounting something that happened 20 years ago, and the way that it was one of the most painful things she's ever experienced. And what have we done in the last 20 years? We've only expanded access to that experience. And we call that progress. We call that liberation. We call that freedom. We call that rights. The fact that now, even though we've known for a long time, even though there's myriad of these stories, now we'll mail these pills out to you. And you can cramp and bleed and sob and cry and pass your preborn offspring in a bloody mess on the toilet, possibly with or without the support of anyone there. I mean, Britney Spears at least had 2 people there to support her. How many women have taken these pills and had no one there to support them, and not even the doctor knew they were doing this because they did not have to go to a doctor in the first place? And make no mistake, if you have an ectopic pregnancy and you take these pills, you will bleed out and you won't survive. And the only way to know you have an ectopic pregnancy is to be diagnosed by a doctor. So we're not doing women any favors by not only expanding access to these pills, but also mailing these out. And these now account for well over half of the abortions that occur in the country, these abortion pills. And it just breaks my heart. I mean, it really breaks my heart. There is forgiveness for every mother who's had an abortion, but it breaks my heart that we lie to women in this way. That we tell them it might hurt a little bit, but you'll be fine. And we do not lay out the truth of the physical pain first, the emotional pain, short-term and long-term, the fact that you will carry this with you for the next 2 decades, for the rest of your life. You may or may not be with the father later on. You know, this may or may not be something that actually helps you have the future you want, that you need this in order to succeed, that it's some kind of liberation or freedom or women's rights to bleed and sob and cry on the bathroom floor and pass your preborn offspring. I mean, that is, women just deserve so much better than that. So I just wanted to share this passage with you. And I just hope that someday we can see the truth. I mean, no matter what you think, whether you think that women still need access to this, we're lying to women. We're lying to women about what this is.